pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That we will call roll. Kennedy.
Here.
Schmidtke.
Here.
Riley.
Here.
Pedestris.
Present.
Clodier. Here. Budney.
Present.
And Vanaz.
Here.
And Costick here, present. We have a full commission here this evening. You all have a copy of the agenda and entertain a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and supported. Are there any additions, deletions? Hearing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Agenda is approved. We have two sets of minutes to approve. First, the minutes of our August 13th meeting. May I have a motion to approve that?
So moved.
Their support. Support. It's been moved and supported the minutes of August 13th be approved as distributed. Any comments? Hearing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Next, we have the special meeting that we held regarding our refuse contract, August 29th. You all have had a chance to look at those. May I have a motion to approve?
May. So moved.
Their support.
Support.
So the support is from, okay, fine.
Yeah.
And the support's from Lenny? Are there any questions? If not, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
I want to, before we go on, I want to just acknowledge and thank the commission and the hard work of the subcommittee on refuse. We met several times over the last month, reviewing our bids, interviewing contractors, refuse hauling contractors. And I will tell everybody that last evening, the township board approved a contract to go with priority waste. Waste Management came in with a proposal. I'll just digress for a minute. We've been spending about $640,000 a year with Waste Management to pick up our refuse, yard waste, and recycling. We met with Waste Management a couple months ago and determined that they were going to really raise our price, maybe 30%. They actually raised it 50%. Their bid was just shy of $1 million. Very disappointing. They said we've been getting a good deal for a long time. I guess we have. But two firms bid close to what we're paying. And thanks to the work of the committee and Priority Waste's bid is going to represent about a $20,000 increase per year spread among all of us. About a $13, $14 increase per year for our refuse hauling. And we had another bid close to it by a company called GFL. But we did recommend. So starting November 15th, we're going to have a new waste hauler on the island that has yellow trucks. And they just purchased 6 new trucks. I just want to also mention, I guess, I'm stealing your thunder probably, that with the new contract, we're going to work this out yet, but the proposal was to pick up all the waste instead of 5 days. Every day we had Waste Management here, 5 days a week. They want to pick it up in 2 days, on a Monday and a Tuesday. So we might split the island in half, north of Meridian and south of Meridian. That's kind of a concept. We got to work all those details out, but we're going to have a new contractor picking up our waste and recycling and yard waste effective November 15th. So hopefully that all works out. I'll move on. Item number 6, our approval of our bills, vouchers 8.1.2019, and it's several pages. Any questions on the vouchers?
Do you want a motion first, or do you want a question? I got both.
Give me a motion.
Pardon me?
I'll take a motion. For
Okay,
approval.
so moved.
Their support.
Now I do have just a quick question. On page 3 of 5, there's a audit fee for 2000. Is that just our regular audit fee, or is that the special, something to do with the auditor looking into?
As far as I know, that's a regular audit.
That's just regular. Okay, thank you. That's it.
Thank you. Any other questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion for approval. I have a motion. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item number 7 is a review of our statement of revenues and expenditures, which is a monthly update we get for the 12 months through the year. Everything looks fairly normal, except for our sludge hauling. And I guess, Ryan, we assume we're not going to have any more sludge hauling this year, this fiscal year? That's good. So that's our sludge hauling at our wastewater plant. Other than that, we'll just receive and file it unless any of you have any questions. They'll be received and filed. Item number 8 is approval of the treasurer's report through August of 2019. Any questions on the treasurer's report? If not, I'll entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Second.
Support. The support was from Mr. Pedestris. Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. So we got through all those items rather quickly. I see we have some residents here. I think it's the Zimmerman family from Park Lane, the north section of Park Lane. And you're welcome to approach the bench, the podium if you wish. You're here because you were here a couple months ago to talk about the flooding problem on Park Lane.
Right.
Where there was no place for the water to go. I do know that I happened to drive it today, and I think you did too, Phil, right? And I know that I noticed that it seems to me, and you can correct me, when I was up there a couple weeks ago, I noticed in the backyards of the property abutting the shoreline of the river that there was a lot of water in the backyards. It seems to have gone dissipated
That's
that I
right.
could see from the road. But what I still notice is today there's a lot of water standing in the ditches about from the side street of Harbor Point north.
Right.
You live in the section from Harbor Point north?
Yes.
So with that, go ahead, Mr. Zimmerman.
I came here basically to just get updated. Like you said, we met 2 months ago. Derek came out and we reviewed the property and the drainage issues there. Somebody was supposed to get back to us in a few weeks, and it didn't happen.
All right.
And the water has receded temporarily, but it will come back. I checked the water level projections weekly, and they've been missing them all summer. They have a graph where it gives projected highest and projected lowest, and we've been exceeding the projected high right up till today. And we know that I've lived in the water in the area all my life, and we will get November northeasterlies where we potentially have a major problem. And it'll come, then the water, when we don't have the northeasterly, the water will retreat, yeah, will retreat. And until come next March when the northeast winds will come back in. And it's projected we're gonna be every bit of as bad in 2020 as it was this year. We haven't been tested yet with a hard northeasterly wind. In 1974 and in 1986, we were tested where we had strong winds for 4 or 5 days out of the northeast at approximately 25 miles an hour, and it backs the whole lake up. And then when the storm comes in at 50, 60 miles an hour, it just blows the whole lake over this whole region.
Right.
I guess that I'm here to find out from, I know that they talked about purchasing or renting some pumps, and that is, back in 1986, that's what the solution that the township had come to. And they put in one pump, but they didn't put in the other pump.
The pumps were used over land,
Yes.
pumped it into the canal or
Once into the
pumped
river
your
and then
your
the other one.
yards dry that way.
Yes, that's correct. And I'm just trying to find out what's the status.
Okay, well, luckily tonight our engineer's here and he can give you an update.
All right.
And I'll ask him to, but I want to ask you a question.
Sure.
Are you the gentleman that said you were familiar with the old pump that was someplace there?
Yes.
Have the engineers talked to you yet?
No.
You aware of that old pump? Why don't you come up to the podium, Sohail?
Private pump that we're not aware of.
Okay, so this is Sohail Sabak, Mr. Zimmerman.
Al, pleased to meet you.
Meet you.
And so I'll give you an update of where we are.
After the last meeting that these issues were brought up to the DPS Commission, Derek and Mr. Budney, Trustee Budney, and our office, we went to the site and looked at Park Lane. We also had the drawings of the old design that was done before with a pump station, some piping in the ditches to divert the flow back to the canal. Since then, we went out in the field and had our surveyors measure all the grades and elevations in the ditches. And we found out that the old design doesn't work anymore. The elevations are a little bit higher, but the solution still works. If we put a series of pipes and a pump station, we can pump it all the way to the canal to the west and get this issue resolved during heavy rainfalls, but normal heavy rainfalls, not during catastrophic events. What would require also, the outfall has to be protected. What I mean is we have to put a backflow preventer on it or a tide flex to stop the canal water from coming back. What's happening now, the gravity discharge is not viable. The water elevation in the canal and the river is high, and practically it's equating the same elevation in the ditches. So there is no viable gravity outlet for these ditches to dissipate. But with a pump and a tide flex put on the outfall pipe, we may be able to stop the water from coming back and pump the ditches into the canal and get that problem resolved. We are currently working on putting a cost estimate of the pump station and the piping to submit to Derek.
Yeah, I have a question for you. When I was out there this morning, there's a green algae on top of the water in the ditches. So do the ditches, are they clear? Are the culverts clear? Do they run?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I think, yes, the answer to that is yes. I think evidence of that is the water levels in the ditch are the lake levels, and you'll see flow eventually coming in and out, and they're all seeking the level of the river. So it's obvious that there's a free flow between the river level and the ditch line. So to answer your question, yes, they seem to be free and open.
So you can come up, Mr. Zimmerman. So when do you think you'll have your analysis done? So
We should have it within 2 weeks.
the next monthly meeting?
We have somebody looking at the pump station to price it for us now. So
Next monthly meeting, then it'll be on the agenda.
Are you looking at one pump station or two pump stations?
one pump station.
That
But
won't work.
Why not?
Because we, and Derek, we followed through there. If you look there at Mr. Finazzo's property, he's at the highest point, and he's at the watershed where one goes north and one goes south, and both of them are blocked. If you have not looked at the north end, there's two problems that exist. The one problem is when they redid the water system, they did not clean out the ditches. They did it, but there's still high spots in it. On the very north end, where there's an easement from Meridian going out to the canal, and when they put in the roads back in about 1987, 1988, the county was supposed to, we paid to have all new ditching put in, the new road put in, and they were supposed to put an exit for the ditches out to the canal, and the excavator got stuck. So they only got about 25% of it done. I have the drawings from back then, and I'm sure they're no good now, and it shows that there's 3 high spots going out. So the river being high right now, it comes over the high spots, and then it gets trapped. Then it gets trapped in because it doesn't have a free flow out. We are actually worse on the north end with high water than where the proposed pump is going.
Well, this is a schematic. I don't
Yeah.
have the drawings with me.
Good schematic.
But what we're doing is we're picking up all of these ditches from here all the way around, bringing
No,
back to this
you're
pump
not.
station.
No, let me explain something to you.
Well, I'll tell you what, we
Yeah,
have
no.
we have a commission meeting going on here. So what I'd like to ask you to do is give Sohail your phone number.
Sure,
And
absolutely.
Sohail, will you
Go ahead.
make a contact with
We'll
Mr.
make
Zimmerman?
contact and we'll
It's obvious once he gets out there.
Mr. Chairman, I did want to mention one thing. The pump station that was referred to earlier, as Ohio had mentioned, is a private pump station. So it was installed by the residents in that area. It services, and this is towards the southern end, near Harbor Point that you're talking about. And it services residents to about 3 to the north and 3 to the south. And
That's correct.
that system is, electricity comes from the house that it's located next to, and they've always maintained it and they've always operated it. They were having problems with the pumps in that structure burning up because the river water was coming back and was constantly circulating. So that pump station, that private pump station wasn't in operation this spring, which I think caused a lot of issues for the neighbors that normally would have drained down. And that's where a couple of the residents here were having a lot of water in their backyard and didn't have any place to go. So that was the one pump station that existed out there. Other pump stations, as Mr. Zimmerman had discussed earlier, were designed. Raines actually had a project number, I think it was project number 99. So there is some groundwork relative to pump stations in that area. So I think that'll help out, trying to figure this thing out.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Well, I asked you to get together and try to resolve
Sounds
these
perfect.
questions. And also, before you go, Les, do you remember the pump situation out there?
Yeah,
Add something to this?
I think the county had some money that went into that lift station too. Because,
Said, what happened is that there's an easement there, and they agreed to put in the pump station. They put in the
What one?
the riser where the pump station could go in, and the agreement was if the county did that, that particular problem would be addressed, and the resident provided the electricity for the pump.
and I don't know who it was to maintain it.
Ray Delto. It was Ray Delto.
Do you remember the pumps, Les?
No, but I remember Ray Dalto
Yeah.
and his mountain lion.
That was him.
All right, so one comment I have, and I don't want to get in trouble with anybody for saying this, but one thing that occurred to me, because I went up a day or two after the whole group came in, and I've talked to a couple of commissioners, and we don't know where we're at this point, but we can't drain the Detroit River if it's too high. I mean, if it's a subterfuge, if we're just going to recycle water, we can't afford to spend end amount of money, or we just don't have that much money. You understand that?
I have all the history.
So
on
something
this.
has to be able to work at a reasonable cost for us to give you
They were
some
gonna
aid.
dam it off at the canal and then pump over the dam, is what they were gonna do.
What the hell are you talking about? The canal, only canal I know is where the bridge is.
There is a cut to the west to the canal.
Between the
from-
main island and Hennepin
From
Point.
Meridian Road.
So the water's flooding from that canal between the main island and Hennepin Point, coming up in the woods, coming into the drain system that feeds those ditches, and that's what's filling it up. I mean, you can actually go to the canal and you can see watch the water flowing in and out of the woods.
This is a canal I'm not aware of, right? Probably?
I'll get
I would assume.
West of Meridian, though, between the island and Hennepin Point.
We walked that, didn't we?
You can't see it unless you go back in the woods.
Yeah, you have to, oh yeah, you have to go back.
Point to the point of Park Lane and Meridian, you look in those backyards, you'll see it.
Comes right out here.
Oh, on the cul-de-sac, behind them? Oh, that's the canal you're talking about. Okay, all right.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Very good. Thank you
Okay.
very much.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
since we're talking water, can I get an update on the Swan Island end of the island? If there is any?
We're still waiting for the water to recede so we can dye test it. Again, we need to find a viable outlet for that drainage.
Okay.
And we're waiting for the water to recede. Once that happens, we'll dye test it and we'll be able to determine which way the flow is going, where it's ending up. Then we can work on bulkheading that pipe or putting a pinch valve on it and pumping
Okay.
over it. So until then,
Our water, the water's down there and it has been for about the last
but
2 weeks.
the outlet's still not visible on the canal side.
Oh, no.
So
Depending
we'll,
on how low that is, you may never see the outlet.
we may have to dye test it and
With
pump
dye
and
in it, yes, yeah.
pump the dye in so we can see where it's going to end up.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, we're all set. Are we ready to move on? We have 2 action items tonight. The first action item is our bar screen project that's been around a long time. I want to just announce that tonight, the 2 low bidders are both here. The 2 bidders are here. I think we all recognize Steve Pulowski, who was here at, did I say that right, Pulowski? Here at the last meeting, and then from Process Piping, is sitting in the back is Andrew Smith, Zach Turner, and Jim Salisbury. And both firms are here to answer any questions we might have. Derek's going to give an update report, and what my proposal is, unless anybody has an objection, is we have a report from the staff, which was the same report we had the last time. Why don't we get a motion on the floor, and then we'll have a full discussion on the issues that anybody wants to talk about. So the motion would read, based upon a recommendation of the Township Engineer, the Department of Public Services Commission hereby recommends to the Township Board the award of a contract to a low bidder, Process Piping and Equipment, for the installation of new bar screens at the Grosse Hill Wastewater Treatment Plant, and other associated work is indicated in the attached recommendation of award letter.
Support.
Okay, I was reading the motion. You're making a motion?
Well, I'll make the motion then.
Okay, is there support?
Support.
Okay, so it's moved and supported. We have it on the table, and so we have a recommendation or a motion on the table. And since, John, you raised the issue before, I think I'll go to you first. And let's make comments on where we are. And, should we have Derek give an update, or Sohail? Should we have Sohail give an update? Because the commission asked that you, Sohail, as our engineer, meet with Steve, I guess, Suez, and go through the similar bid award meeting, which was held with Process Piping. Can you give a few brief comments, Sohail?
Sure. And again, there is a long history behind the repair and bar screens, but I'm going to make it as brief as possible, starting from the bid opening date. On July 11th, 2 bids were received by the township on the bar screen project. One was from Process Piping and Equipment, Inc., and the second was from Suez. Both bids were evaluated and checked. We also had held pre-award discussions with both bidders, and we also checked the references of both bidders. As far as we're concerned, both companies are capable of implementing the project, and they're both are qualified to implement the project. However, from a standard practice, we have to recommend the lowest responsive bidder to perform the job. That's why our recommendation was to award it to Process Piping and Equipment, Inc.
Okay.
Okay?
Is that sufficient? You have anything to add to that?
Nope.
All right.
Just a quick question, just to make it clear, after this go around with the conferences with both of them, your recommendation doesn't change.
That's correct. My recommendation stands as is.
Thank you.
Okay. You want to start, John?
Sure.
Okay.
So, Hal, I am trying to figure out which model we're talking about for the bar screens, because there's like there's a 4-letter model, then there's a -M model. And the last detail we got had the -M model on it. The initial proposal information, June 2018, had both depictions in the presentment that the gentleman gave from the manufacturer.
Sure.
Duperon, yeah.
What was presented to you in June 2018 was their pretty much prototype of what
Like
they...
a product brochure.
Exactly.
What are we using, what are we going to use for the installation? Is it the -M or is it the regular model number?
We're going to be using the -M, and again, these are the ones that were approved by the DEQ, and eventually the parent agreed to that because this is a vertical installation, it's not a lean installation. Some of them refer to lean models, some of them refer to a vertical installation.
Yeah, I just don't have all the material in front of me from last June. I have it, but I don't have it with me. So I'm trying to understand what the -M does, that the model doesn't, and you're saying that it's for the vertical installation, that's when we need the -M?
What happened is that the parent staff came out during the analysis. I mean, this thing took a long time just analyzing the location, the space available, the vertical alignment. We ended up having to remove a slab to accommodate the compactor. Even with that, we just had to put a vertical unit in because we couldn't Preferably, we would have gone with the inclined unit, but again, there's no space for it, so we ended up with the vertical unit. And the parent came out and they agreed, and they're the ones that said this is a model that we have to go by.
Okay, so that's the one you need.
Yes.
Now, with respect to sizing, do we have the absolute optimum size that we're going to install? If there's variant sizes, the best one should be installed now as opposed to adapting later on.
This is the only model that could be installed as far as width and elevation. We have clearance limitations, we have width limitations.
Okay.
And this is a model that's going to end up working for us.
Now, there's some mentions about 1/4 inch, 3/8, that kind of thing. So what are we going to use?
1/4 inch.
And that's going to be the best process and the best sizing if we're looking at 20 years out.
This is what was recommended by the parent. They've been doing these units everywhere around here, and that's what the recommendation was, and that's what we went with.
Thank you. I don't have anything else.
Okay, shall we start, Les?
I would like to know where process piping is located at.
Well, I guess you're still at the podium. I think you're out in Wall Lake or Wixom.
Yeah.
I thought
Milford,
Process
I have to
piping
get
is,
the information. I have the letter, their address
From
is in my
Milford?
letter somewhere.
Milford?
Milford is your headquarters? Okay,
Milford?
Yes.
Okay, and how many of these bar screens have they put in?
you have to come up to the podium, so whoever's
Yes.
gonna be the spokesman.
we put in 11 so far.
11 so far.
Never done a vertical like this, I have to say, though. Most of them been on an incline, but this is a pretty unique situation that they have with the,
Okay.
We are out of Milford, Michigan. Jim, Salisbury, and Zach are from Monroe County, where they live, so.
Last other questions?
Not off the top of my head right now. Those are the two that I had.
Any other questions for the gentleman from Process Piping while they're up here? Okay, Phil?
I don't have any questions. My concerns at the meeting 2 meetings ago was that we had the representative from Suez here, but nobody from Process Piping was available at that meeting. And for, I guess, a conflict of scheduling, or didn't think it necessary, our engineer wasn't available. And so I had some questions that have since been answered. One of them, of course, was what was the history of Process Piping in doing these types of installations? How was the bid process reviewed and put together? And all my questions were sufficiently answered
Can you,
prior to coming to this meeting. So
I'm going to go around the table, but I guess I want to ask you while you're there. Can you name a few of the communities in Michigan that we might know that you put them in? I know you check references, but.
yeah, Dearborn was one, Tecumseh, Michigan was another one. East Lansing was a big one. We just put in 3. Monroe, we did 4 over there that were real big, and they bring people around. That's all we do is water and wastewater. We've been doing it since Trenton, yeah, we just did one at Trenton just last year.
Yep.
You did the Trenton plant, okay.
We've been around since '85. We're a pretty small company, 20 people, and
You may have to be called up again, but we're going to talk about it, so thanks for coming up. Don't leave. Jim?
So Hiles made his recommendation. I'm satisfied with it.
I don't have any questions.
No, I'm satisfied with Sal's recommendation.
Okay. So Ted, do you have any questions? All right. You can go around again. If anybody has a question, just raise your hand. Staff, do you have any questions? Derek or John? Okay.
Oh, Bill, time for installation. Whoever gets the job, how long is that gonna take?
After the township board awards the contract, I'm hoping on the 24th, is that when it's?
23rd.
23rd. They will order the shop drawings, and that may take 4 to 5 weeks to prepare. The shop drawings will come back to us for review. We'll review them. If they're acceptable, we'll approve them, send them back to the contractor. The contractor will then order the equipment, and it may take up to January. Now, we were hoping we'll do this at the end of December, early January, based on the award being done last night's meeting. But now that we're going to wait another month, we may end up doing this construction in February, and hopefully we don't go beyond that.
It's kind of a critical path analysis.
Yeah.
What I was more interested in, two parts. First of all, is the equipment already built up so when they're ready to ship?
No,
No?
the equipment will not be ordered and built until the shop drawings
Okay,
are
so
approved.
they have to build the equipment.
That's correct,
And once it's built and delivered here,
yes.
and how long does it take to install?
Do you have an idea how long it takes to install them?
And that's gonna vary a little bit, you're gonna run into problems, so, but. 4 to 5 weeks. 4 to 5 weeks? Okay.
There are elements of the construction that could be done meanwhile where the equipment is being manufactured, such as cutting the floors, extending electrical work, preparing the concrete in the bottom. They could,
Unforeseeable things
yeah,
too.
yeah,
That's not my
So
question.
there
I
are
was
things-
just wondering the simplistic
yes.
concepts.
There's
That's all.
ventilation modification, there's, again, beam installation. All of that stuff could be done in advance of dropping the equipment in and tying it into the ground, so, okay. We can get a better fix once we have a pre-construction meeting after they get awarded the project.
Okay, let's go around again. Are there any other questions that anybody has?
Nope.
We have a motion in front of us.
And I wanted to mention this, Ohio, on these big contracts, so $500,000, $750,000, my history and experience goes back into the 80s, and it's a lot better if you're here for the big ones. If it's a $10,000 contract for grass cutting at the sewer treatment plant, doesn't matter. But something like this, $500,000, $750,000, that's a lot of money. And it's not our money, it's the taxpayers' money.
Sure.
So that's why when you're here, it's a lot better.
No problem. I'll make a point. Discuss that with the chair and get.
We'll set a limit.
I'll make sure to talk to Chairman Kostick about that. Thank you.
If there's no further discussion, Mr. Pulaski, you're here, and so is Process Piping. You have anything you'd like to add? Okay, well, thank you for being here, gentlemen. And with that, I'll call the question. All in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. So thank you for being here, Steve. And thank you, gentlemen, for being here. We look forward to working with Process Piping on the installation of the bar screen at the wastewater plant. And I just want to ask one other question. You, Sohail, now that we've approved it, you have to get insurance and your bonds together for the project?
We will have to wait till the board approves it.
Well, that's right.
Yes.
Board
So
approval.
once the board approves it, we will prepare the contract documents with the unit prices that they provided. We'll give them 5 books to go to their insurance agent to buy the insurance and bonds. They have 15 days to deliver those. Once they're delivered, we'll review them. If they're in order, we'll bring them back to the township for signature. Once we have a signature, that's when the contract kicks
Okay,
in.
very good.
But hopefully, if the board approves it on the 23rd, they can go ahead and order shop drawings at least, because we're almost halfway there through the process of signing the contract.
So how, while you're there, what's the customary monetary controls for completion and workmanship? Is there a specific holdback that you normally recommend, or how does that work?
Well, we lean on the, first of all, we have a retainage to make sure that we have enough retainage to get the project delivered. Plus, we have the performance bonds that act as a performance bond and a maintenance guarantee. That bond, once the project is accepted, kicks in for a year as far as maintenance and guarantee of the
After
equipment.
completion.
After completion. They used to have 3 bonds, now they have only 2, payment and a performance bond. And we also have the insurance, so.
Thanks for coming.
So we have lots of controls to make sure that they deliver a project and it's successful. We still, after They install it, we have the startup and the training period before we even accept it. They have to start it, they have to train the staff. After all that's accomplished, then if everything is in order, we'll issue an acceptance letter. That's when the performance maintenance and guarantee bond kicks in.
Okay.
Well, on John's question on the retainage, is it 10%?
It is 10% up to 50%. By state law, we cannot hold after 50% is accomplished more than 5%. So up to 50%, we hold 10%, which becomes 5% of the total, if that makes sense.
The target moves, that's all.
And I mean, the state law will not allow us to hold more than 10% after 50% is
I like
done.
that answer.
Yeah.
After 50%, it's 5%, so.
That sounds like a government answer. You know, I mean, not you, but what they would.
It's a
require.
public act. I
Yeah.
can't help it.
Okay, with that, thank you. And again, Steve, thanks for coming tonight. Next are the managers,
No,
we have
we have another.
authorized, item B, authorize engineering. And you have a report in front of you. The motion reads that, I'd like to, the motion would read, the Department of Public Services hereby directs the Charles Raines Company to develop bid specifications and advertise the replacement of water mains in the following locations. And this is what this map that Derek handed out tonight shows, those locations. So the first one is Meridian Road, Thoroughfare Drive to Douglas, right away. Church Road, West River to Meridian. That's the West River side of Church Road, including Colonial and Court and Plymouth Court. And then Meridian Road, and this is the one Les brought up, like Church Road, he brought up, between Voight and Paulina. And we did have a meeting on this as requested, and so last night, the Township Board approved the $6 million, moving forward with the $6 million bond issue. We wanted to wait till that was done. And so we'd like to authorize the engineering with the hope that this could be bid in December or January, so we could hopefully get some good bids. So I'll entertain the motion that was just read.
So moved.
Support.
Supported by Kennedy. Is there any questions? Hearing none. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
So the motion carries. We'll move forward with the water main. You've got those instructions then, Sohail. Next, we have the manager's reports. Derek?
Light report this evening. I wanted to update the commission on the roads, the local road work that's happening within the township. The township supervisor discussed that road project briefly at the township board meeting last night. Just wanted to let the residents know the timing for this project is the result of the complexity of intergovernmental agreements between the township and the county and getting all the necessary approvals in place in order to make sure that the funding is secured to do the work. We would have preferred to do the work earlier in the summertime, but it got pushed towards the tail end of the summertime because of those complexities. The DPS Commission went through and did a survey, as you guys all know, of the different road conditions, local road conditions in the township, and prioritized those areas that we're working on. And we're focusing on local roads because those are the roads that the money is intended for, to replace or to patch. And generally the county works on the major roads. They very rarely work on the local roads, so that's why we're spending the money in these areas. So they have been working since about the second week of August. The contractor's Dominic Gaglio. They started on Grays Drive and some work over on Park Lane. And then they've moved over to Macy Court Curley and HCL Jackson. I did want to give some credit to John for his assistance with the contractor in working with the toll bridge in order to ensure that traffic flow of the concrete trucks were maintained during the closure in August, the 3 or 4 days that the Free Bridge was closed, because we were in a real time crunch trying to get that work done on Grays Drive before school started, and him working and coordinating with the toll bridge really helped out in order to ensure that there was no lapse in work and that it continued through the closure and that we stayed on schedule. So John's been my contact in the field for the work that's going on. So John, if you have anything else to add, he's touching base with them on a daily basis. So he might have something else to add on those items.
They're just doing an outstanding job, and highly recommend keep using them.
So the one comment I would make to the commission is, when we wanted to have Gray's Drive done before school started. And Eric worked it out so that Gaglio got in. They used quick drying cement formula, and they got it done, all the repairs. And there's a lot of them near East River and Gray's Drive. So I think the contractor did it, and I said, I was hoping that all the barrels would be gone and cleaned up, and it was before school started.
And there is some more work to be done on Gray's Drive, but we just simply ran out of time. So in subsequent years, if this funding is available, we'll have to take another look at that. But we didn't want to bite off more than what we could chew and complete before school started, so.
Talking about schools, that wooden bridge across from Meridian School, that's complete. That bike path bridge, that's completed. So that got completed in a good amount of time too. It took them several months.
Right.
But that's a big deal because the kids hop on the bike path. They go across the street, get on the bike path, and they go wherever their homes are.
And I think the next project they'll be working on, and I think that's through the Bikeways, Bike Path Committee that will be the overlook at the end of Macomb Street.
Yeah, they were down there today, starting to prep it.
That's all I have on the roads update.
I have a comment or two.
Sure.
I just want to mention, and I don't know who it is, I think one of the two of you, have been bugging the county to do some hot patching on our potholes, and I noticed today that they finally did the potholes that many have probably seen on Macomb. There have been a number of them on Macomb Street, and they patched them today, so whoever, John or you, Derek, thank you for that. And then I want to ask John about Macy Court, because I know it's going to be a mess out there for long, but I thought at the end of Macy Court, the north end, we were going to do something to stop the drainage going down these driveways.
We're gonna intercept the catch basin at the cul-de-sac and run it into the storm drain so it no longer floods the last house on the west side.
One driveway that runs down, you're not putting a lip there?
We did that last year, and now we're gonna put the pipe so the water gets intercepted before it gets there. So he will not have any more issues after we're done this fall. So far, he's very happy. And they have replaced the east side of the beginning of Macy Court right now, so when that cures, they'll move to the west side. And they'll be doing that drain probably next week.
Sorry, go ahead, Derek.
That's it.
Water loss report?
For the month of July, we were at 5.341%. And for the duration of the report, which dates back to February 2018, 15.792%. In talking with John, we have to balance a little bit of the water loss with some of the hydrant flushing that we do and water main breaks that we have. So we'll be trying to build an estimate into the water loss report to account for those numbers. So John and I will be working on building that in subsequent months. So
Good.
That concludes my report.
Good job, Derek. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
I don't know if the commissioners know how this water loss report is made. We purchase the water in cubic feet and sell it in gallons. So to get this report, we have to convert it from cubic feet to gallons, and then it actually takes 3 months to find out what our water loss is, because that's, the island's in 3 different sections. So that's where it comes up with.
Okay, thanks, Les. John, Park Lane Water Main Project.
Park Lane Water Main Project's just about wrapped up. I had a conversation with Joe from CE Rains today, and the only one issue that we can recall that we have is to address Mr. Zimmerman's ditch requesting that we come in and clean out all that debris that was left in the ditch. It's because it's underwater, they can't dig it out because you'll never get the grade right if you're digging underwater. So as the water recedes, they're going to come back and clean that all up and reseed that ditch once the water recedes.
The other issue with that is, although that area might need some ditch work to be done for them to be cleaned out and recut to the bottom of the existing pipe, you have to be aware that if you go and you cut the ditch line, you end up reducing the elevation in that area, and it gives a conveyance for the river water to come into those ditches. So if you go through and do a wholesale ditch cut on both sides of the road there, you could potentially have problems that you don't currently have with water flowing into those areas. So I think we want to be careful about looking at doing any recutting in those areas until we figure out this pump situation if we end up going that route. So we have to temper some of the requests that we have down there with those concerns.
We'll get the high spots out that he's referring to and any of the debris that was left behind from the water main project.
But what you might have is a no solution solution. I really mean that. It sounds silly, but I really mean that because the water level now is higher than it's ever been. That man was, Mr. Zimmerman was referring to the Army Corps of Engineers reports. I'm sure he was because that's what the graph shows. And I think it comes out once a month. So if the water level's so high in the lake, there's nothing we can do about it. There's no place to go. It's like we're sticking our finger in the dike, but that won't solve the problem.
We can't buy a pump big enough.
Well, you know,
Seriously, yeah.
the only real option there is to discontinue a gravity system, make it basically a closed system, and pump it out completely. So, you know, that would be the option.
Yeah.
Yeah, then who's gonna maintain the pump? That's the next thing.
Sure, you're not looking at about just a simple one-time expense. You have ongoing maintenance, upkeep, and so on. So
Been down that road already. That's why there's one there and nothing working.
Les, are you looking for a part-time job?
No, sir.
All right, so, John, Safeway TV.
Safeway, our sewer cleaning and televising contractor, is about 90% done with Section 2. They have Meridian Road left from Bridge Road to Ferry Road. They need traffic control for that because they're going to be out in the roadway. So once they gear up with their crews to do that, they'll be back in about 2 weeks to complete that. And then we just have some backyard easements along the thoroughfare canal, which are really underwater right now, so we can't get to those right now. But if the water recedes and it dries up, we'll finish that up. Other than that, the project will be finished on schedule. Section 2.
Found any leaks?
Nothing recently. Nothing new that we can report.
Think there's a leak under the canal that area you're talking about?
I don't believe so. We have tuck pointed some manholes we come across that had a little bit of infiltration in them. So we hydraulic cemented those and eliminated that water, but nothing major, Bill.
Because on average, everybody, we sell, let's say we sell 1 million gallons of water a day. At the sewage plant, we're, on an average day without rain, we're pumping 2 million gallons through it. So I know Ryan and I have talked about that. But
The DPS staff, just, it's worth mentioning, I think I updated the DPS commission at our last meeting. They've GPSed about 2,550, or I'm sorry, 1,250 manhole structures for the sanitary sewer system. Fishbeck ended up coming up with about another 350 manholes that they're going to have to do, just ones that weren't on the original map, so they've been steadily working on those. And then John and George will be going to training for the manhole structure coating to be able to start doing their inspections through the wintertime. And they got to do about 450 structures.
saying we found some manholes?
Well, no, I think that the mapping that they have was originally on CAD, so it wasn't, the first round wasn't as accurate as subsequent rounds or additional information they ended up coming up with. So when you take a look at the line, the manhole should be equally spaced between, point A and point B, and they only had maybe 50% or 60 or 70% of those structures between point A and point B, so they had to go back and relook at things, and they ended up identifying those, upload those on the map, and the guys will be doing the inspections on those as well. So they have a little bit more work to do. It's like pushing the finish line out.
And we've also come across some with Safeway that have been buried 2.5 feet deep up on thoroughfare. So we're in the process, actually they might be here tomorrow to raise those up. So we couldn't GPS those because we're underneath the roadway 2.5 feet.
Underwater.
Not necessarily underwater,
No,
under
in the
grade.
roadway.
In the roadway or under grade.
Anything else?
No.
Ryan, you have some good news to report.
Actually, Bill, I had a couple more things.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's
Go
okay.
ahead.
So we started our flushing and winterizing fire hydrants today. We're beginning at north end of Park Lane and Meridian, coming southbound. We will be doing push notifications each day to let you know we're in your neighborhood, so you don't get, your water will be stirred up when we're flushing. So you'll get some rusty water, just let it settle out, run the cold water until it clears up, and it'll be fine in an hour after we're out of your neighborhood. So tune in to Grozio Connect and look for your push notifications. No. Beginning tomorrow morning, Wayne County will be here. They will be grading Park Lane between Horse Mill and Church Road and thoroughfare between Horse Mill and Church Road. So please don't park on the roadway, and then don't park on the roadway Thursday as well, because they will be applying dust control to those 2 roads. And that concludes my report for
This is
tonight.
a second application, dust control?
Courtesy of Wayne County.
They're paying for it.
They're paying for it.
Anything else?
That's all for today.
Ryan,
Thank you.
I see you're on the agenda for the elevator project, so why don't you give us the good news?
The state inspector certified our elevator for use as of mid-August, so we're back in service with that.
Should we all come over and take a ride, or?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, you can. Yeah, so that's really nice. It's, you know, it's good.
I was over there, Derek, to the wastewater plant earlier this week, or last week, and we talked about the problem you brought up at the last meeting. You might recall in the lab, the non-functioning HVAC unit, and
That's correct.
That's being looked at by Fishbeck, your subcontractor. Yeah, mechanical. So we're looking at that. That'll probably come back to the commission at some point. Anything else?
Correct. Nothing else? Nope. No.
Well, I'm glad you're going up and down now in the elevators.
Yeah.
Congratulations. Oh, and I just
Me
want to
too.
also say, you may remember this, John, or Les, over the years, I've been critical of the front of the wastewater plant along West River, and you and your guys, not hiring a landscaper, have cleaned all that up. So if you look at the trees, they're all
Mulch
trimmed.
too. Yeah, the mulch.
And there's no weeds growing. The grass is nice. And of course, nobody's driving by now because of
Because of the bridge.
closed, but I like the idea that we're taking care of our property like you're doing, so congratulations
Yep.
on that. So thank you.
Me too. Yep. Thanks.
All right.
Thanks, Ryan.
So let's see, are there any items for discussion? Are there any commissioner report items? Jim?
Nope, all set.
Nothing to report.
John?
Everything's good.
Phil?
I do have something to say. Last night, 3 of us were at the township meeting, and I was sitting next to a gentleman, and when he realized I was with the DPS commission, he leaned over and told me that, you guys really need to do something about these roads. And I said, yes, we've tried several times. And he was a member of the public, of the community, and I guess I'm really speaking to the public, if any are listening, that this commission has tried on 2 occasions. We've brought 2 millages before the population to approve improvement of our roads, and they were both voted down, and that we're still working with a $200,000 a year budget for maintenance, and what little help we get from Wayne County in spits and spats, and maybe pinning our hopes that Santa Claus is going to give us $3.2 billion to the state to fix the roads, but I really don't see that coming, and there's a lot of bickering among the legislature now as to how much to approve and how to garner the funds. So I think the public needs to be reminded that these are Wayne County roads. We have tried on 2 occasions to pass what we considered were necessary millages with a plan in effect to improve the roads long term, and they were both voted down. And so I really think this needs to be kept in the forefront, because they're not getting any better, and they're not going to continue to get any better, and the cost in the future is going to be much more than it was a year ago or 2 years ago to bring our roads up to standard. So.
Well, thanks for bringing that up.
That's all I have to say on that.
And two days ago, I got a call in the morning at home from Mark Graziola. You remember Mark? He lives off Church Road. He attended several of our meetings here. Nice gentleman.
Yeah.
And his question to me to start the conversation was, so what are you doing about roads? And I said, nothing at this point. So he said, well, don't we have to start the conversation again? And I said, well, I don't know where to go with it. So I told him I would call him next week and we could have a conversation about it. So I guess my thought is maybe towards December, we ought to start talking about it again. I don't know.
We should start talking about it again, and we should. I think it's something that just has to go back on. What Phil said is absolutely right. The longer we wait, the worse they're going to get. The more it's going to cost us.
Absolutely right. I think from my perspective, and Ted and Jim, you can comment on this, Derek. The county's going to put a lot of money on this township on bridges. And that's going to be their excuse.
Sure.
They're spending so much on bridges here.
That's right.
And we don't know what the price tab's going to be on the Parkway Bridge. That's a good excuse for them to say, we got no more money for you guys.
Well, and in truth, they don't have the money. That's the problem. They don't have the money. We don't have the cars, the volume to rise to the level where they want to help us. And there are a lot of high volume Wayne County roads that they're going to spend the money on. That's what it is. We're going, what we've come up with and why we've come up with it is because that's what's going to have to be done if they're going to get fixed. If we keep kidding ourselves that Wayne County or certainly the state isn't going to get any money to Wayne County to get to us. We're never going to be designated with any money. So it's just the fact of life is at some point we're going to have a millage to take care of our roads.
And one thing I learned through anything we do with the county, every year they have to approve what's called an IGA, an intergovernmental
agreement.
For the money they might give us for local roads, the one we just did for where we paved by the high school or made repairs, we waited 6 months for that IGA to be approved. It's called an IGA. And the question is why? So somebody slipped up at the county, I think it was you that discovered it. They said that the County Board of Commissioners each week will only take 3 of those on their agenda. Is that correct? Do you remember that?
Something along those
Yeah,
lines.
it was 2 or 3. It was a very small number.
So for the bridge project out here, Parkway Bridge or the overpass over West River, they just approved that, and it's been in the mill for months. Now, what a shame. I'm going to talk to Joe Palomero about this. What a shame. You have a county board of commissioners that are making $60,000, $70,000 a year for a part-time job, and they hold all these projects up because they'll only take 3. I'm going to find out what the policy is, and I feel like I need to address it. It's just not right, holding communities hostage. And holding projects up, like ours was held up.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to end up paving, maybe not get all our work done especially our asphalt work I'm concerned about, the neighborhood repairs, because this thing got delayed considerably. And I'm talking about months, 3-4 months it got delayed. It's just not right. So I just thought I'd mention that. I never speak highly about the county anyway, so I guess you're all used to that. Where were we? No commissioners' reports here, Phil. We were with you less.
I would like to nominate you as the guy to go up there and shape them up.
Will you come with me?
Second.
I'd love to come with you.
Okay. Ted?
Wayne County will use the excuse that a lot of money is being spent on the bridges, but we all know that those funds are separate. The bridge money comes from one source. Road money comes from another source. Even though they'll use that as an argument, it's really not a valid argument because one of it is state and federal funded. So, but you're right, I don't think we're going to, unless the township is willing to step up. And I understand why there's a lot of disagreement about it, but they are Wayne County roads and we're going to have to fix them. And I don't know a way to get around it.
The only report I have from the chair is, and here's one for Ted. I'm passing out Derek prepared this new list. Hopefully it's correct. If any of you see anything that's incorrect, this is of the Public Service Commission. Do you guys have one?
I've got
Derek,
it on my computer, John. I don't know if John has
I
one
got
yet.
a couple and we should give one to Sohail too. So, I'll keep one and give Sohail, if you don't mind. Keep one and give it to Derek and John, please. This is a new, updated list of our contact information for public service commissioners, so hopefully that'll help you. And, with that, I'll, entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Is there support? Support. Moved, supported that we adjourn the meeting at 8:04 PM. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.